We are recording.
Okay, so I hope everybody can hear. If you can't hear, try and make some kind of signal, and the fellow who's a wonderful IT rep who's guiding us here will let you in somehow. So welcome to the pre-proposal conference for this disparity study. Can everybody hear? Somebody said yes, so I guess they can. Okay, so this is it's unfortunate I can't see everybody's faces. It's a disparity study that's being conducted, or hopefully will be conducted for both the city of St. Louis and the county of St. Louis. And it's very newsworthy because we don't do a lot of things together that we probably should do. So first, I'm going to introduce a few panelists. David Meyer, who's from the city councilor's office, he's an attorney. He's going to be on the evaluation committee. James Morrow, who's here. Stacy Fowler, who's the MWBE contact for the city. And Nancy
It looks like Stacy is actually in the wrong group. I think she's an attendee right now.
She's over. She's over.
Excellent.
Okay. And Nancy Walsh, who's a city attorney as well. And then there's me. My name is Greg Tater. I'm the procurement director for the county of St. Louis. The person who is going to be on this panel with me from my office is unfortunately out ill today. It's not COVID, it's just an allergic reaction to clams. But so she can't be here, so I took her name off. But she will be the designated point of contact. In county procurements, once we're out on the street, there is nobody who's able to talk to you except the designated point of contact. So if anybody's interested, if they have questions, that's who they contact, either for the city or for the county. They don't contact any random people that they know in the city and county. So there are a couple important dates here. January 4th is when we want questions and comments. If you have problems or issues with the RFP, we will try to answer them as quickly as we can after that. If we receive them after January 4, we may not be able to get to them. So you can still submit them, but there's no guarantee you're going to get an answer. And then proposals are due as of right now on June 11th. This is our schedule. It may change due to whatever circumstances or whatever situations come up, but as of right now, that is our schedule. So the first thing I want to do for people who've participated in RFPs before is I want to do it a little bit differently. I know all around the country, and I've been in a few different states doing this sort of work, people run RFPs based on an agenda, based on a timetable. The entity, whether it's a state, whether it's the feds, whether it's a county or a city, they say, we got to get this out, we got to get this out, just get it out. And they think it's a glorious document, that's the best thing that's ever been written. I have yet to see an RFP that is actually brilliant, okay? And I've seen many, many dozens of them. So this really is your meeting for anybody who's a proposer or potential proposer. And what I really like to know is your but for. In other words, if you're interested in proposing, or you would be interested, but for some particular issue or concern, let us know. I don't have any problem going back, and I've done this in the past, redrafting an entire RFP or a solicitation when people tell us what we're asking for is unrealistic, foolish, impossible, or infeasible. So I really do want to hear from people. I know people in Missouri tend to be a little bit circumspect and polite, but I'm from New York. And I'm used to hearing people speak bluntly. And so if you have problems, if you think there are problems with this RFP, if you think it could be improved, let us know. What we don't want is we don't want people not to propose because they think that there's something wrong with what we're asking when we could easily address that. So please keep that in mind. So I'm just going to give you a general overview. I don't want to talk too much about the RFP itself because I assume anybody who's attending the pre-proposal conference will have read it. So if you have questions about it, we're happy to answer those, but just keep in mind, there are two entities that are involved, even though we're doing this jointly. Consequently, we'll have 2 studies, and that kind of makes sense, right? We have different demographics in the county than we do in the city. However, we share a vendor pool. I mean, a lot of vendors working for the county and for the city, they live in one or the other, sometimes both. Their offices are in the other. So we're sharing a metropolitan area, and we share a lot of the same vendors. We do probably have slightly different workforces, although, you know, that might be something you can tell us, right? So some of the cities around St. Louis might have people who work in the city and vice versa. So we'll look to you to help us figure that out. Specifically, what we're interested in, and this came up in 2 meetings yesterday and another meeting this morning, we're interested in looking at MWBEs that are ready, able, and willing. And what we don't want is simply an analysis that looks at numbers. We don't want somebody to look out there and say, well, there are 100 firms, there are 20 MWB firms and 80 non-MWB, therefore you need such and such a goal. We can do that. That's unneeded information, and it's not something that's of any interest. You have to go down a little bit beyond. So ready, okay. Are they actually capable? The fact that somebody registers as a business doesn't mean that they're really capable to do it or ready to do it. Are they able? Do they have what they need? More important than any of them is willing. So I grew up in the construction business, and I can tell you we never did any public sector work. I know many firms that are in the construction business. They never do any public sector work. There's a stigma attached to it that you're going to be buried by paperwork and bureaucracy. So the fact that X number of firms may exist doesn't mean that any single one of those firms is interested. Out of 100 firms, there might only be 2 firms that are actually willing to work with us. And that comes up a lot, and it came up in a meeting yesterday with a business advisory council, which is made up of a number of MWB advisors. And one of them mentioned it himself. He's a small business owner. So that's something we're really interested in, because we know we have vendors out there. But when we put out solicitations and we get 2 or 3 responses out of a pool of maybe 50 or 60, we're a little bit interested in why. Actually, we're very interested in why we're not getting the responses that we might prefer. So that last piece on here is really important, because you can't do a disparity study and set participation goals if you don't have willing participants. That's really critical. We're looking to you guys to help us. Okay, and as I said, it means more than numbers and statistics. There are going to be some questions that you'll have to ask, okay? And include both primes and subs. I mean, we've heard from primes that our procedures are too complicated, and so they've stopped bidding or won't bid. Okay, now if we don't have a prime bidding, they're not going to sub to anybody. So, you know, we need to accommodate the vendors on both sides, okay, primes and subs. And that's MWB and non-MWB. I mean, the concerns don't stop just because someone's an MWB or not. If you're in business, you have the same business concerns as anybody else does, right? So it would behoove us to find out from all of them what kinds of problems they think we might have or what kinds of issues we might have. So we're interested in that. We're looking for an analysis at the end that's going to withstand any kind of legal challenge. It's not like people are out there, you know, waiting to sue us or waiting to challenge us, but we want something that's going to be able to withstand it. Now, we mentioned the Croson case. There are subsequent cases that have been come up, both in the national and the local level. So whoever we select as a proposer, we would expect that person or that entity to be able to not only know about the various case law issues and the statutes, but to be able to help us craft a program that's able to withstand legal challenge. And that means basically we want some real analysis and not polemics. I mean, we can deal with that. And look at procurement. I mean, here's the thing. When we do construction bids, they're blind open. Okay, we do competitive sealed bids. We don't know who's bidding. We open in a public forum. Everybody sees who's the low as red, okay, before we do the responsibility check. So what is happening that we're not getting the participation we want. Maybe we're doing something wrong and we're not experts in everything in this world. So if you have some sort of suggestions, you know, or if you know best practices. I've been around the country working at a number of different places, so I have a little bit of knowledge, but I sure as hell don't know everything. So if you have something you can bring us that'll help us improve our outreach and our procurement and our contracts, we're more than happy to listen. And so that's really all I wanted to go over. Now, if you want to get into more detail about the study itself, we have a panel of people who can talk to you about it. Stacy's incredibly familiar with it. But I want to turn it over to you. I want to hear from potential proposers. I want to hear your questions and concerns and issues. Do we have any? And Jerry, I'm going to shut this down because I don't want to share. I want to be able to see who's asking things. How do I stop sharing? Got it. Okay. So I hope I didn't set anybody off, but does anybody have any questions whatsoever? Got to be kidding me. Has anybody typed one in? Okay. Jerry, are you here?
Yes, I am. And everybody is unmuted, so they should be able to talk.
Okay, good. That's what I was going to ask. Okay. Okay. Stacy, you have anything you want to add? Nancy, you have anything you want to add?
Not really, unless there's some specific questions that the attendees might have, other than we're really excited to get this done. It's time for us really to look at what we've done for the past couple of years since the last time we did this. And I think that everybody's excited that we're doing this together. As you mentioned before, we're working with the same contractors in terms of our pool. Oh, I got a hand, somebody, maybe. And that we're just wanting to have one methodology of someone looking at this regional area that we're working in to help all of us understand how we do this a little better and understand, you know, what changes really need to be made, because you have a set of goals, we have a set of goals, they're not the same goals. So it just kind of allows us to look at the region holistically together versus two separate kind of silo things going on.
Jerry, some people have said that they appear to be on mute. There are some people who wanted to talk. Oh,
Attendees, yeah, attendees aren't allowed, can't talk. I have to, oh, wait a minute, I can't unmute them.
can I unmute them?
I'm going through. Who would like to talk?
Samir Bawa?
Okay. He is now unmuted. He can now talk.
Good afternoon. I'm sorry, I may have brought more attention to myself than I wanted. I actually didn't have any questions, but I wanted to make you aware when you were asking for questions that we were all muted.
Yeah, I mean,
Sure.
I really do want questions. So we have a question here from Glenn Sullivan. He wants to know if they need to send anything in to confirm their attendance. You know what? No, don't worry about it. Now, especially, I know you're here. I know who you're from. That's fine. Anyone else? If I could get this a smaller grid, people can raise their hands or something. Well, I don't want to close the meeting. It just seems like maybe I put.
Well, they can also submit their questions to us in writing, right, Greg?
Yes, And that's what they should do. Okay, so we have another question. Are subs required to submit prevailing wage documents? So I'm going to let Nancy or David from the city answer that, because for the county, for a study like this, there are no prevailing wage requirements. So if there are in the city, I'm going to defer to one of the panelists.
So this is Nancy. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So the city has a living wage ordinance and it has a prevailing wage ordinance. The prevailing wage ordinance applies to contracts for service, contracts for services for the city. So it could apply, but it doesn't apply to administrative, professional, or executive employees. So it's quite possible that there would be no employees that would be under that. But if it does apply to certain job classifications under the contract with the city, then it also applies if those things are subcontracted out. And I am the designated point of contact for the city. If you want to submit questions, if you want to send me an email and ask for those ordinances, they were referred to by number in the RFP, but if upon a request, I can provide the ordinances. And of course, if I get a question, I'll provide them to anybody that's registered for the RFP.
So we have another question. The city's including available workforce. Are you defining the workforce as employees? In other words, I'm assuming this is city employees versus available employees for contractors. Nancy, that's the city requirement. Do you want to talk about that?
I don't see that question. Where is it?
I don't either.
At 220.
Maybe it was just sent to you.
Right.
Can you state the question again, Greg?
The city is including available workforce in the study. Are you defining that as employees? So I assume it means employees of the city.
Normally on our construction contracts, workforce would be boots on the ground and it would not be city employees.
Okay.
May I ask a
Right.
follow-up to that question?
But I'm not sure what context they're asking the question.
May I ask a follow-up to that question? This is Samir Bawa from BBC, if you can hear me.
Sure.
You're unmuted. They left you unmuted.
Oh, great. At full rate. So when we at least have proposed on workforce disparity analyses, typically to Ms. Fowler's point, that has referred to boots on the ground on construction contracts and so forth, and that was included in the RFP. However, in the cases where that's shown up for organizations, they usually have an office that maintains those data for us to analyze and figure out what the availability is, what the contracts are, who actually worked on the contracts and how many hours. Does the city or the county have such a data set, or is this something that you'd like the consultant to start from scratch on? Because that's a much larger undertaking if you're not already collecting those data.
So I can speak for the city. We have compliance software where we track boots on the ground, and we have what we call a locale report, which shows us everybody that works on a particular construction project, their race, their address, their trade, how much money they made. So we track that within the software.
Perfect. Thank you.
So we wouldn't be asking you to create that data set. We have the data.
Excellent.
Okay. So I have another question. There's Vanetta Mitchell, and Jerry, you can't unmute her, or maybe her mic isn't working. Can you possibly unmute her, because she has a few questions?
She is unmuted.
Okay, so then it's her mic. So she wants she wants an overview of the apprenticeship mentioned in section 213.
Oh, shit. 213.
So let me see 2.1.3. I'm not seeing it somehow.
I don't have a
What's-
2.1.3.
Exactly. So, I don't know. I'm sorry,
I think
Ms.
it's on
Mitchell.
page, I think it may be on page 13. It's kind of, there's a couple of series of numbers here. I think it's the one on page 13.
Okay.
It's talking about with our, I think it's on this, under the city construct,
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, that's a separate section.
with the, in our
Okay.
boots on the ground ordinance, presumably it's coming out of.
Okay.
Although it references.
Review
the
overall
county as well.
compliance with utilization of MWBE apprentice and city resident labor hours in city-funded construction projects.
I'm sorry, where are we looking?
Page 13.
It's on
in
page
the
13.
RT.
It's 2.1.3.
She's
Thank you.
asking, what person knows this is being
I can
requested?
share it on my screen if that will help anybody.
City
Actually, let me
employees.
just do that. If I can figure out how to do that again. So I think it's this one. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
We can make it bigger if it helps. So I think that relates more to the city because we don't have that program right now in the county.
And I think the city context comes out of our ordinances that were previously referenced. There's apprenticeship goals set forth in those. And so that would
Okay.
probably provide the context. It'd be in ordinance. I think it's 70767 that had the long version of that.
Okay.
Ordinance 70767.
So she wants an overview of the apprenticeship program, I guess. If somebody were willing to provide that. Or would that be something that would more appropriately be provided in writing later?
Probably later in writing if they're awarded the proposal, because we would walk through it, because each trade has their own apprenticeship program and it's different for each trade. And so it's a little different than me just giving, because I don't have like a cookie cutter that will go across all of them.
So then the only thing we could provide them usefully right now would be the ordinance that was
Correct.
just referred to on the
Yes.
requirements. But that's a good point, actually. I wish I would have thought of that yesterday.
70767 is the ordinance.
City Ordinance 70767, okay. Do you track apprentice data?
Within the software, it is because they're tracking apprentice hours, and they have to, because each trade has rules according to the journeyman, how many apprentice can work according to the journeyman. So they have to track how many apprentices are working on a job per trade, per journeyman.
Right. Okay. And I don't see any other queries or questions.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
whoever you are, we can hear you clearly.
Oh, great. I'm Denise Coleman.
Denise Coleman.
And hi, I am just interested in knowing, I did take a look at the RFP, obviously. Are you looking to hire one firm, or should I say like a general contractor, one legal firm who will then subcontract the work out to different other attorneys or different apprentices?
So I can answer for the county and I'll let the city chime in. That's not exactly what we were looking for, but
Okay,
if you have a proposal, or if you're thinking of proposing as kind of a joint venture or something like that, submit it.
yeah,
I mean, I'm not willing to reject it out of hand, right? The thing is, we're only going to contract with one entity. Okay. In other words, if you have 2 or 3 people you're going to partner with or do a joint venture, we're not signing contracts with all of them. Whoever
I
we
understand.
contract with is going to be completely responsible. So if you have support, you know, from one or another, submit the proposal. We'll look at that.
Okay, thank you.
And then thank you for patience dealing with her technical. It's not a problem. We're happy to accommodate. The next time we get together, hopefully your microphone will work.
Okay, thank you.
So anybody else? Well, all right. Stacy, you think
I'm good.
we're good?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so roughly a half hour. Good enough. So don't forget, if you still have Ms.
Someone
Mitchell-
says they're still muted. So Susan Johnson, do you want
Yes,
to
okay.
ask us a question?
Yes, I did have a question. I want to know how soon will questions be answered? If the deadline is not until January, will you be answering questions as they come in, or
Yep.
will you wait until you get all the questions?
No,
Okay,
no. My policy is answer them as you get in, because every answer generates another question. And so to do
Okay.
them all at once and assume we got everything covered is not a smart move.
okay, thank
But
you.
we will share the answer probably with everybody, because the
With
question
everybody.
you ask might be a question someone else wanted to ask, and that way everybody gets the information.
We won't give information on an individual basis. Everybody gets every bit of information we pass out. That's right.
Okay,
Good point.
thank you. And I have one other question.
List.
Go ahead. See, now people are starting to get lively, finally. Kind of-
Now, I have one other question. Since this is for the city and for the county, you are looking to contract with one entity to do both studies? Okay, I
Yep.
just want to make sure. Thank
That's the
you.
idea.
Yes.
Right.
But we anticipate that there will be one contract with the county and one contract with the city, but the goal of this is to select one vendor to do both.
Will there be an attendees list that can be circulated, or where would we find that?
That's a great question. I apologize. Okay, stop for a second. Pre-COVID, when we used to do these in person, I would have an attendees list. You know, I would share that with people. We would know who came, who didn't come. We'd ask for them to submit some information in advance. So we're still kind of a little bit learning because of COVID. And I neglected to ask for that, and I should have. If we can derive from this, who was there, we can probably post it, but I'm not going to guarantee that we can do that just because I don't know the technology.
Okay, I was just curious. We're a maybe vendor, and we were looking at particularly would like to potentially partner with someone on this particular opportunity. So we typically
Oh,
will use
great.
I think
the
that's
attendees list
fantastic.
to be able to reach out.
We
So
would
my
love
question-
to. Go ahead.
I was going to ask, are you a local vendor, or are you just
Yes.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Yes, we are local.
Are you
St.
certified through
Louis.
the airport?
Yes, that's correct.
And the name of your company?
It's PSRI Technologies, and my name is Dr. Natasha Conley.
So we have somebody from MGT Consulting Group who just sent us their information. and they will, as far as I know, that's a
Probably
national
the best
group.
way we could do that, if we wanted to get something, they could actually put their information in the chat.
That's what
And
I'm
that-
thinking.
That would be
Yeah.
the best way for us to get an attendees list. If
Yeah,
you
my
If you all
chat's
don't
not
mind
working
doing that,
for some
that would
reason.
be, that would be fantastic. If you guys don't mind doing that, putting it in the chat with your contact information.
I'll try again. I've tried several times, but some of my questions didn't seem to pop up there through that questions through that.
I'm seeing
Are
a
you
lot of
sending
them
it to-
show
You
up.
know, it might make
I-
the most sense after we're done here if everyone can email either admin or IT or someone who can then distribute a full attendees list rather than everyone trying to do it ad hoc right now.
That might make sense too.
Okay.
Okay, why don't you do that? Send it to the designated point of contact on the
That's true.
Griffin
So-
Strong. I have Samir Bawa, so you don't have to worry about it. I'll add those. I have Mitchell at MGT. But yeah, that's the best way, actually, and then we'll have a clean record. And then we'll post that.
So would that be for the city, Ms. Walsh?
Either
Yes,
way,
Nancy Walsh is the
Yes.
city and Teresa Parker is the county.
that's right. And we will share, we're not going to do anything without consulting the other party.
Right.
Great.
Can I ask a question? Is MGT and certified MBE, WBE in the airport, at the airport? Or was it just PSR?
Well, I'm PSRI Technologies LLC.
Oh, PSR Technologies LLC. And
MGT is not. I don't think
and MGT is not.
MGT is.
Okay,
Right.
no problem. All right, got it.
I'm glad somebody brought that up at the end here. Okay, so now, is that it? Every time we say we're going to close down, more questions come up. So I'm just using that as a way to scare up more questions now.
I think we're good.
Okay, I think we are. Okay, so we'll close this. We'll stop recording and that's it. Thank you. And please feel free to submit questions whenever they occur to you. You don't wait till the last minute. Submit them earlier. Earlier is better.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank everybody.
Thank you for
right.
attending.